just kind of an idea. I usually call them my example bonanzas, where we're going to go over a bunch of different ways in general that you can inspire creativity in your classroom. I can talk days about inserting creativity in your assessments, your daily routines, just because we always had that ever persistent search for an intrinsic learner. And I have yet to come across the perfect intrinsic learner, but I do find when students are creating something from scratch that's theirs, that they take ownership of, that's as close as I can get to that elusive, self-motivated learner. So we're going to look at a couple ideas of creativity, and then we're going to dive into Lucid Spark. Specifically, you can use Chart and Spark, but since we're talking about small group instruction, we're going to look at creativity ideas for the classroom, and then we're going to look at the breakout boards inside of Lucid Spark to help you with managing digital small group activities, where you can have multiple groups organized in one Lucid Spark board. And we'll kind of go over the logistics of that and then answer any questions that you might have. It's a nice small group, so feel free to hop off of mute at any time if you have any questions, and we can just kind of, talk back and forth. And apologies ahead of time if I'm tongue-tied or I start to drown a little bit. Like Karen said, it's a little bit late today and I'm officially an old person and I go to bed promptly at 10 every night. Okay, so we already went over the agenda. For those of you who are on in the chat, you can just kind of let me know 1 through 4 your familiarity with Lucid. So if you've never used it before, you're a 1. If you use it all the time and you're a pro, go ahead and put a 5 in there. Okay, perfect. Claire's a 1. And then that'll help me. I'll do a little extra time. Okay, we got some 3s. Perfect. So I'll do a little extra time when we get into the dashboard section, where I'll talk about just Lucid in general. So the 2 main products that we have are Lucid Spark and Lucid Chart. Lucid Spark is our digital whiteboarding tool used for collaboration and then managing small group instruction, which I'll talk about today, and then highlight some of those facilitation controls. And then Lucid Chart is where you have a couple more robust shapes, features for concept maps, diagramming, timelines, flow charts, different things like that, where you could push out templates to your students for them to complete, or they can start from a blank canvas and create, which is the main focus of today. So that's mostly what we'll be talking about. But then at the very end, I'll also drop in my 3 favorite resources for Lucid for education in general, so you can learn about it beyond the scope of creativity that we're talking about today. Okay, so at Lucid, we're all about visual learning. So to speak with a visual, you can see here a bunch of different examples where you could use it in an elementary classroom, using digital manipulatives to help support and scaffold your instruction. I never had enough money manipulatives, and now you can have an infinite amount, all the way up to a secondary classroom where you might have students completing a 5-paragraph essay graphic organizer in order to prep them for their full activity. You can also, everything you see in Chart and Spark, you can also print everything. So you can push things out digitally for students to complete, and you can also export worksheets that you want students to work on, or you can export their final products so that you can still print them and hang them up in the classroom. For example, this beautiful volcano diagram that a student made, you would want to print that out and put it out in your hallway. At least I'm coming from elementary. Your hallway game always had to be on point. So you can print out all of these amazing things that your students are working on. Okay, so now we're going to jump into the exciting part, where we're just going to go through a bunch of different examples. We're not going to talk too much about how to do it, just more, these are some examples to get our light bulbs going off, and then we'll go over some more how-tos and getting started closer to the end. So one thing I really love is creating comics in Lucid. We have this whole toolkit. I'm going to drop this presentation. I'm going to drop the path link for you. And then you'll get this little navigation pane at the bottom when you click follow the path. And I'll actually go in an incognito window to show you that quickly. So when you open up the link, you don't want to be a quick clicker like I always am. Oh, I didn't do a guest collaborator. So let me go into my teacher. So when you, Karen, that should look familiar. One of those things you sent over earlier that I'm working on. So once you get in, it will pop up to follow the path, and you just want to click on follow the path. Depending on how large, this is a big presentation, so it takes a little bit longer, but you'll follow the path, and then you can use the navigation pane at the bottom of your screen, or you can just pinch in and out to see all of those different examples. So I click on follow the path, and now you get your navigation pane at the bottom. If you accidentally exit that and you want it back, just click on the frames icon, and then that allows you to get back to that path again in case you lost it. So that's just a quick preview. Now I'm going to go ahead and paste that so you'll have this resource, and you'll notice that all of our examples will have the links above them, so you can access a template version where when you click on the link, it's automatically giving you your own copy of that template. So I just put that path link into the chat so you have it for later. So you'll notice here, this comics template, we have it in Lucid Spark and Lucid Chart, which just kind of gives you some templates to help give out to your students. But now let's move on to the exciting part, examples. So how could you use this in the different content areas that you're teaching? So this teacher used it for teaching character perspectives. So you can do this in any grade level. This one is coming from an elementary where they picked out all of the different characters in a story, and they had them write different perspectives on Wilbur. So kind of learning different perspectives in a fun and unique way. As we see here, Mr. Arble just wanting to eat poor Wilbur, and Charlotte wanting to save his life. Two very different perspectives from different characters in that book. This next one is anytime you're thinking about a biography, instead of having the students write a typical report or a Google Slides presentation, they could create a comic in order to share the information about the person that they are researching. I love this one. This one I get super nerdy about, and I'm going to read it because I just can't help myself. But just any type of vocabulary lesson. So science, social studies, ELA. Instead of having the students do the typical, like use it in a sentence, write the definition, examples, non-examples, you could have the students actually create 3-step comic strips for each of their vocabulary. So here you can see their word was camouflage. And so then the students said, now you see me, now you don't, here I am. So they're showing what the meaning of camouflage is through a story. And then we have omnivore. I'm hungry. I want fish. Ooh, berries. Again, showing omnivore. And then finally, I'm the last dodo bird. Oh dear, he was the last one. Showing you and depicting extinct. So just a fun, engaging way to get students engaging with their vocabulary, which is embedded in any of the different content areas that we're teaching students. And then of course, once they make them, they need to share them with the rest of the class. They can compare and contrast the differences, or you could assign different words to different students, and then they could use those to reinforce kind of teaching that vocabulary to the rest of the class.
Vanessa, could I ask a question, please?
Yes, of course.
You've shared the link with us. Are we free to share that with other teachers, or is it is okay? I just wanted to check, because
feel free to send it out.
I'm thinking of specific teachers going, oh my goodness. So good to know. Thank you.
Yep, the more the merrier. And then this next one is a math example. So just taking some of those math facts and having students create mini comic strips to share the math facts that they're learning. So you can see here, Sam, he's about to have a party at his house. And then he's thinking about the pizza, how many pieces of pizza he needs. He's thinking about the cake. And then also, of course, those not prize bags, but the gift baggies that he's going to give his friends at the end. So just creating, instead of just reading through a full word problem. Now we're actually showing a visual representation of that as well. Okay, so that was all different types of comics that you can use. The next thing we're going to talk about are science diagrams. And you'll see there's links above each of these that will give you your own copy of these. And then also at the very end, I'll give you a link to our template toolkit library. And we have a whole toolkit that has several different diagrams that are already created for students. And then hopefully the dream is eventually you start with the scaffolding of having students complete drag and drop, and then you gradually remove those scaffolds where you can say, all right, everybody, here's your rubric. This is what I want you to create. You send them to a blank canvas, and then they are creating the diagram instead of, you know, having a drag and drop type of activity. Some of the templates will also have 3 different levels. For example, like DOK level 1, 2, or 3 in the template. So then you can see different versions of how you could present that to your students. So this is as self-explanatory as you can see. All the students do is you can push this template out to your students. And I locked this since I didn't want anybody deleting it as a presentation. But I'm going to quickly unlock them. And then the students come in and they just click and drag out all of these different things. So this one is the outer core. They drag it onto the diagram, and then when they're done completing it, they can push it back out to their teacher. I'm not sure, Karen, I know you have different dioceses. I'm not sure if your LMS systems, do you guys do Google Classroom, Schoology Canvas, something different? All of the above?
I'd go with all of the above, Vanessa.
Perfect. So we have integrations with all of those. So I'm assuming you have tech people in your different dioceses and different things like that. So you can reach out to them if you want to learn more about how you can push out templates. But I'll also then include how to make force copy links in case you're using a different LMS besides Schoology, Canvas, or Google Classroom. That'll kind of mimic that process that the LMS does for you, where when they click on the link, they're automatically getting their own copy. And then they can just share it back to you using the share link. The next diagram example, again, clicking and dragging and dropping onto that diagram. So we've got collection where we have them coming down and collecting into the rivers. Oh God, look at me. I think it's this one. Clearly science was not what I taught. And then the next one, obviously I'm elementary. So this is another example where the students are clicking and dragging each of these items onto the screen. So we've got our frog. He's almost our little, this is our, I think our frog, our tadpole with legs. Then they can drag, and normally you wouldn't have these locked, but this is also highlighting the lock. I just didn't want anybody, like you said, when we share the links, to move my things. But they click and drag out each of the different images, and then they click and drag out the labels. Okay, now this one is, the next 2 examples are the ones that make me really excited. The first 2 are actual, click and drag diagrams that were already created that you could push out to students. These next 2 are examples where students started from a blank canvas and they actually created these in small groups. So they divided them up and the teacher gave them the rubric of all the definition, all the vocabulary words they needed to include, the processes they needed to show, and then said, all right, go into Lucid, and I want you to create a diagram of a volcano. So you'll see here, I can actually click and pull apart this diagram, which is showing you that they're just using the shapes on the left-hand side to build out this volcano. I had a teacher, I actually gave the same presentation at a conference here we have locally, and I had a teacher come up to me afterwards, and he said his favorite thing is just to say, all right, I want you to go into Lucid and I want you to make it happen. And he loves the productive struggle that students have where they might not know the answer right away, but they have to actually use those problem solving skills to figure out how they're going to create something, which he finds really helpful because, when you get to the workforce, they're not just going to like hold your hand the whole time. My husband complains about it all the time. He's like, they just gave me this project and didn't tell me what to do. And so they have to be, familiar with, looking at a problem, figuring it out, and not getting super frustrated, knowing that they're going to get stuck sometimes and then working through those problems. So it's kind of a side benefit with also just how deeply they need to think about what they're learning in order to create a diagram of something that they're learning about. And then the next example, this one always blows my mind. It's coming from a 4th grade classroom where they were learning about hurricane systems. So they were learning about different natural disasters. And so she partnered each group into small groups. One group had hurricanes, one had the volcanoes you saw, so volcanic eruptions. And then each small group then built out their diagram. So this one, they even took it the next step further, where they built out the system of the hurricane, and then they also brought in the impact it had on their community, and then had the students kind of start brainstorming different ways or things that they could do in their community to mitigate the dangerous stuff. Sorry, there's a word and I can't find it. Mitigate some of those bad things that could happen due to hurricanes. Like, oh, we'll send out an awareness flyer before hurricane season that people should go out and buy their sandbags, or that you should start filling up your tub with ice if you think the power is going to go out before a hurricane. So kind of, making that awareness flyer and then sending it out into the community. So connecting them not only with the hurricane, but also how it impacts them and their life and their community. And again, I'm always flabbergasted at the fact that 4th graders made this. And then it makes me think, I'm sure you guys all had the rolls of paper where we'd do big projects on those big rolls. You'd go down, pull it all the way out. And just thinking like how big that those rolls of piece of paper would need to be in order for all of the students to complete this gigantic diagram. So just by having it digitally, it's easier to change things. It's easier with the endless canvas that you have infinite space in a small device. So a lot of things that just kind of take away some of those issues that you might have with a paper project in your classroom.
And Vanessa, I'm guessing that with that one, the small groups could be all working on the diagram at the same time.
Yep. And so they're all collaborative. So that's one thing. Spark and Chart, thank you for bringing that up. Both of them are collaborative. So it's just like Google, if you're familiar with Google. I believe OneDrive has the same option. The teacher could pre-set up, which we'll kind of talk about with breakout boards. These were actually made inside of Chart. We have a new thing that just launched though, where if they start a document in Spark, they can transition it to Chart, and then they can switch it back to Spark, and they can switch it back to Chart. So they can actually go between the same tool. You're in the same document, switching between the two different tool sets. So that's something as they go and they're developing it, they might, oh, I need the annotation tool. Let's switch to Spark. Oh, I need the more advanced shape features. I'm going to go ahead into Chart. So as you play with it, that'll make more sense. But that makes it a little bit easier to kind of go between those two different use cases. And yes, they're collaborative. So they just use that share link, send it out to their group classmates, either through a link or just by sharing it directly to their email address. And then they can join that same document. Or like I said, we'll talk about setting it up using breakout boards. That makes it even easier for the teacher to kind of manage, provide feedback, and see what all the students are doing in real time. And then the last one is just that food web, again, talking about how visualizing complex things in nature or in science, social studies. I'm not sure about you, but when you're doing something like this, it's your eraser is usually all the way gone. You have the big eraser out because you're constantly erasing things, tweaking things, moving them around, and just in a digital space that alleviates some of those pains when they're trying to mock out something like this. Okay, so those were diagrams. Any questions about comics or diagrams so far? Okay, perfect. Hopefully we have some light bulbs going off of different ways that you could use this with your students. The next one are just a couple fun ideas on different types of like research projects. So this first one is they were asked to research different historical events for the time period that they were studying. The students all were put into different groups. They had their event, and then they were tasked with acting as if they were a reporter in that time period, writing about this one is, for example, I believe part of the Gettysburg address or something like that. It is not even about that, but the Union victory. So anyway, they pretended like they were actual reporters. They're in the moment, and then they use this template inside of Lucid then to write their news article. The next one, this is actually from a teacher. And so this one is actually something where the students start digitally and then they print out and cut out each of the sides and paste it together. So this link takes you to just one dodecahedron template. So they would just duplicate that. I'm just going to click on that. Inside of chart, it gives you the dodecahedron template example. And then inside of chart, you can pick, all right, which layout do you want? Or you could completely erase and delete this in the inside. And then you can right click and duplicate. It's a dodecahedron, so they need 10. So as the teacher, you'd kind of decide what you want them to do, then duplicate that tab 10 times, push it out to students so they get their own copy. And then they'd come in here and they'd use the image search to add images. They use the text boxes and the shapes to just kind of add different information. And then when they're done, they actually print out each of the sides and glue it together so they get this physical dodecahedron that they can use to present to the whole class. And this one was actually, they were doing different research reports on it was a foreign language class. And so it was a Spanish foreign language class. And so they were tasked with researching different countries that spoke the language that they were teaching. So each group had facts and information on their dodecahedron that they were sharing with the class about the different countries they were studying. And then again, elementary, our classroom has to look pretty. So they then even took these and hung them down from the ceiling. So you could also see them and look through them as you're going through the class. The next one is the brochure. We love the brochures. So this is one of our brochure templates where, again, the students were researching they were learning about different biomes. So you had the savanna, you have grasslands, different things like that. So each group was tasked with researching an animal specific to the habitat that they were studying. So they put it out they laid it out in the brochure, and then they were able to print it out, fold them up, and then use those. So put them in the class library. The students can look through and read through each of the different brochures, as well as have the students teach the other students about it. And then infographics, we have a ton of different templates that you can use for sharing what you've learned in an infographic type of setting as well. Now this, Karen, is the one you were talking about. So this one is kind of similar to ThingLink. This one came up because I had I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with ThingLink, but I had a teacher email me and they're like, hey, I don't have money for ThingLink this year. Is there a way to create interactive images inside of Lucid? Because they had a district Lucid account. And I said, sure thing, there is. Well, I didn't know at the time, but then I figured it out and there was. So you can see here, this is a picture of Machu Picchu. And when you click on these little icons, it pops up the information related to these different highlights on that spot. So you just kind of close the notebook and you open the notebook to show those facts. So that the students would come in and they could create these. And then Karen, since you asked about it earlier, in order to create this, I'm just going to pull out a circle shape, hopefully. Okay, we'll pull out a circle. And then I believe if I right click on it, I'm going to add a note and not a comment. So if you add a note, it brings up your little white shape. You write your information. And then I lock the shape so students won't move it around. And then all they have to do is just click on the little notepad and it'll bring up that information that they had. So just a quick, easy way to recreate an interactive image. Okay,
thank you, just what we needed.
Okay, perfect. And I'll send you those other options too. But it's really quick and easy. Okay. So any questions about those so far? Okay. All right. So the next one is we kind of have some choice board. This is a social studies example of a choice board. And we have a bunch of different choice boards and explore boards that you can use for students. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because these are more just providing creativity, but not so much related to a small group setting. But you can see here for their social studies, you saw all of these examples that we were talking about before. So the project is for the students to research a famous American, and then each group gets to choose the way they want to share their learning. So they can share the information about their famous American in a newspaper article, a timeline of their life, or a concept map type about their life. So this way, they're all getting different ways to share their information based on what speaks to them. The next example is a literature choice board, and I'm going to kind of zoom in here. So for this one, it's one that you could use over and over again during like small groups and different things like this. So choose and complete at least 3 of the activities below. So they were reading a story or a chapter, and then they come in and then they don't have to complete all of the different activities. They just pick 3 that they want to do. So this student decided to choose which character in the book they identified with, and then they just drug out the sticky note, resized it in the area to write their answer, and then they would move on to the next activity. So this one is just kind of a quick response prompt board where they could choose from different types of activities to respond to. So they made a prediction. Here I am with Charlotte's Web again. And he does win the fair, which is very exciting. So that one is a literature example. And then this last one is a more generic, just for all assessment type choice board. So anytime you're trying to give an assessment in any content area, here are some different ways that you could offer for students. So they could make the brochure, they could do an infographic, a concept map, the dodecahedron, a diagram, or create like a biography report. So this is just a different way where you could say, hey, this is what I need you to show, include a rubric, and then give them the option to choose the way that they would like to present it. And I really love how at the end, when the students are sharing, everybody is sharing wildly different things, still sharing like high quality work. And it really allows each student to speak to choose one that speaks to them and their creativity and the way that they like to share their learning. Okay, so those were all different ways for choice. This last one, slide 24, it says 23, but it says I'm on 24. So 23 or 24, you'll have to figure it out. But you'll see here, this also compiles this link. And I'll put this one in the chat. Compiles, I kind of called it the creativity template toolkit. So this has even more options for you besides the ones that we saw in this presentation. So let me just grab this one quickly as well. So you'll see some of the things that we talked about in the presentation, and then some additional things as well. Okay, perfect. So now without further ado, I'm going to go over 2 quick videos that will highlight about small group. And then we'll actually go in and I'll walk you through step by step. We'll go over the dashboard and we'll do some of those technical how-tos. But these 2 videos, I really like how they kind of show you what small group could look like without having to actually facilitate a small group activity in the moment. So I kind of fast forwarded to the good stuff. So this one is all about facilitating with Lucid Spark. The presentation I've been in has the red star in the upper left-hand corner. That shows you it's Lucid Spark. And then the orange triangles is Lucid Chart. So Lucid Spark, red star, Lucid Chart, orange triangles. But now with the new universal canvas, you can easily switch between the 2, no matter where you start or where you want to end. Okay. Here we go.
Our Lucid Spark group work template is the perfect place to start. Students start out on the main board where they immediately see their group assignments and instructions for the activity. Then students go to their assigned breakout board to find explicit instructions to guide their collaboration. This template provides structure to the group process while also allowing students to assign roles, brainstorm, and complete their activity all in one place. Now let's take a look at a student example. In this activity, 4 students were grouped together to create a food web. They started by discussing and assigning group management responsibilities to help keep them on track. Then they brainstormed animals that live in their assigned habitat by dragging stickies onto the board. In the next step, they used lines to connect the animals together in different food chains and analyzed how those food chains intersect. And finally, they put everything together to create their food web. By completing their food webs in Lucid, students were able to make continuous adjustments and move things around easily without needing to start over from scratch when they wanted to make a change. Now let's take a look at how you can easily set this type of activity up for your students. First off, open the group work template and add instructions and group assignments to the main board. Then go into the first breakout board and add step-by-step instructions and planning or activity templates. Now that your breakout board template is ready to go, duplicate that breakout board to make one for each group. Rename each board. Finally, send out an edit share link directly to the main board. Students enter their assigned group board by clicking on the breakout boards icon from the toolbar. If students don't see the breakout board icon, use the 3 dots to access and pin additional board features. Once students have joined their assigned board from the side panel, the teacher can easily monitor student progress by joining each breakout board. The days of trying to organize and keep track of 1,000 group links are finally over.
Okay, so I'll stop it there. So that one was an example where each of the students were working on the same type of activity. So they were using the same template, and then they could all be doing grasslands, food webs, or that's when you could assign each group. They're working in the same template, but one has grasslands, one has the Arctic, and one has that. So they have different type of activities, but still using that same template. This next one is an example of a jigsaw group work. Are you guys familiar with just kind of jigsaws where you read an article and then you separate it out, so groups, and then you come back and share? Okay, I'm seeing heads. So this is kind of a digital version that you could set up with Lucid Spark using those breakout boards again.
Now let's take a look at what this looks like. For this lesson, the teacher is separating students into groups to complete a jigsaw activity about symbiotic relationships in nature. The teacher starts by sending out an edit shareable link to all the students. Students enter the main board where they can quickly identify who they will be working with and how to access their group workspace in breakout boards. They can access these breakout boards from the toolbar. If you or your students don't see breakout boards in the toolbar, click on the 3 dots at the bottom of the toolbar to access and pin additional tools. As students join their breakout board, the teacher can quickly see who is in which board by looking for their icons on the breakout board side panel. Now that students are in their breakout board, they have direct access to the article and step-by-step instructions, walking them through the expectations and requirements for the activity.
And then you'll see the article there was a linked website. So in order to get that little link there, all you have to do is just copy and paste a website URL, and it will automatically kind of embed it as that little thumbnail. And if you wanted them to be actually just watching a YouTube video, in order to get their background, if you copy and paste the YouTube URL onto the canvas, it'll automatically embed in the board, and the students can watch the YouTube video in the board that they're working on.
Students are working. Now the teacher can easily pop in to monitor and provide feedback while the students are working. Last but not least, the teacher can call all of the students out of their breakout boards and back into the main board to start sharing their section. To share, everyone can travel into each breakout board with their sharing groups, or if you're sharing whole group, the teacher can quickly drag the content onto the main board for everyone to see. To make this process even easier for you and your students, we have put together this template that you can use to quickly.
Okay, so that kind of gives you the gist. You can see all their tiles in there. There's a couple different things. And I'm noticing that my group work, I must have had science on the brain because it is all science related. But hopefully you can see how you can divide people up into different groups to study any of the different content areas. Okay, so before we jump into actually getting into Lucid, trying things out, do I have any questions? Okay, perfect. So I'm not sure if each of your dioceses have different ways to log in. Karen, you might have to help, and Emma help me with that. But hopefully I have some threes, so I'm assuming you guys know how to get logged in. And then Claire, we have other people from Sydney. If there's somebody from Sydney, would they like to just say, do you use the Google login? How do you usually access it with your diocese?
I have used it before, so I do know how to, yeah.
Okay, perfect, because that's the hardest part. So if everybody knows how to get logged in, I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to post the link, but the main link is just lucid.app anytime you're trying to get logged in. And then I usually use the login with Google, Microsoft, whatever you're usually using within your diocese the most. And then it should auto license you and your students so you can get in, get started, and you can be sharing easily within your domain. So once you log in, you'll notice that on the left-hand side, everything looks very similar to Google. So if you're familiar with Google, this should look pretty familiar with you. You'll also notice I'm not going to talk about it too much today, but we had Team Spaces launch today. So you can check that out. So you'll have Team Spaces up at the top of your board. And then you'll have all your recent documents, starred and recommended. You'll come down and you'll see all of your documents that you create. Anytime you open something up or you click a forced copy link, it'll automatically save in your documents for you to access. And then using the blue button, highly recommend, make some folders and click and drag items into folders in order to organize them. And you'll see mine is taking forever to load because I have like 1,000, probably way more than 1,000 Lucid documents. And so you'll see here I have my folders, and then you can click and drag each of these different items into the folders to organize them. Or if you go inside a folder and you use the plus new button from within the folder, it'll automatically create it in that folder for you. And then you heard me mentioning templates in the video. So this is your templates library, where you'll see there's an education specific tab. This isn't going to give you all your templates for education. It's just giving you either the newest or most popular. So you can search through here. You can click on them to give a preview, and then you can click on use template if you would like to move forward using it. Same thing with Lucid Chart. I believe under standard, there should eventually, it might just not show because I'm in my corporate account. I believe under standard, there should be an education tab as well as inside of Lucid. Oh, Lucid Spark has it. I guess we're waiting for Lucid Chart. So you can click on the education tab here. And then from all templates, I'm just going to search for group work. And then that should bring up any of those different templates that that are related to that topic. So right here is one of my group work templates. And then here is that whole group work template toolkit that has the jigsaw, gallery walks, and then 2 different versions of group work. So you can use this templates feature to find anything in product to start from a template. And then I'm going to show you an even better place to go for more templates at the very end. So we're just going to start, and you can follow along with me, or you can just watch. I'm going to click let's go ahead. I'll start with one of the group templates. So here's my group work template. I'm going to go ahead and open this one up. I'm going to click use template. Now it's opening up my own copy. Now, if I wanted to start getting this ready for students, you'll see here, you can double click and you can change the title. So any of these you can click in, you can change your groups by double clicking in here, change the names, and you get the drift. And then you'll notice this one actually is a Lucid chart template. So that I'm glad I clicked on this one, and we'll try the new universal canvas. I haven't used it. It just launched. But this one, instead of using Lucid Spark where they had breakout boards, they used different tabs at the bottom. So they have the main group, and then they had group 1, group 2, group 3 along the bottom. Now let's see what happens when we change it to a Lucid Spark document. Let's see.
Vanessa, can I ask a question, please?
Of course.
I'm in Lucid chart, and I just opened the same one of you. I've got a grid paper background. Is that something that can be turned on and off? Like the background?
What is the group? Oh, did you say a grid background?
Grid background.
Yes.
But you
So
didn't.
that is a great question. There's 2 different places you can do it. I usually turn off the grid because I don't like it, but some people like it for helping. In Lucid Spark, you click the 3 lines and you come down to board settings, and then you'll see here, you can turn off where it says show grid, or you can turn off the grid.
Awesome.
And then once you turn it off, that's your standard setting moving forward. So it's kind of like you do it once and then it saves. And then if you put it back on, it saves. So it's like these permissions under here with your board settings. Once you make them, they stay, and that's just what they are moving forward. Did that answer the question?
100%.
Okay. And then in Lucid Chart, it's just file. I think you actually have 2 places. You can do file, page settings, or you can do view, and you can my computer's tired too. It's ready to go to bed. Under view, I believe there's show grid at the very bottom of the view button if it wanted to play nice with me. But look at this, guys. It moved right into Lucid Chart, which is pretty cool. And then it looks like over here, it put the tabs. What? Okay. Well, that's really exciting. Not going to spend a lot of time on that because this is exciting, but play around with that. So when I converted it, your tabs ended up here at the bottom. And then to make your, oh my goodness, I'm tongue-tied. To make your breakout boards, you're going to click on the 2 rectangles with the plus sign. And again, like you heard me say 2 times in the video, if you don't see some of these tools, you click on the 3 dots and then go through here, and you can either just click on breakout boards, or if you want it on your toolbar all the time, you could pin that to your main toolbar. So then I'm just going to click and open up that side panel for my breakout boards. And just like you saw in the video, you can click on it to create a new breakout board. When you join the breakout board, you can add whatever template you want, build it out, or you can just start from a blank canvas and just say group 1. Let's say you already have a template you want the students to use. I'm just going to click and drag. I added a template somewhere onto my desktop that's a hot mess right now. So we're just going to drag out this rec center exercise class and pretend it's a rubric. And so you can just click and drag images, PDFs, whatever you'd like onto the board. So if you already have a PDF or an image of a rubric, you could click and drag it onto the board for the students to review. And then again, you can lock it so they don't accidentally delete it, move it, change it, and then they have this extra workspace. You'll see it's an infinite canvas, so they have plenty of space to work on their project and review the rubric. Okay. And so once you have this done, this is basically how you create these templates. One thing I guess I should have highlighted, if you want to search templates while you're already inside of these breakout boards, you'll notice the very top icon is our templates. So you can search concept maps, you can search brainstorming, you can search cause and effect, making connections. So any of those that you might find, you can either search them or you could copy and paste them from one you already have into your breakout board to duplicate later. The biggest thing I love is that 3 dots where you can just duplicate. Once you have one board ready with the template, just duplicate it as many times as you need. Or if you're teaching high school and you trust your students, you make one labeled template and they can duplicate the template to create theirs. Now, one more thing I want to highlight here are our facilitator controls. So up here in the 3 people, you can click Make Me the Facilitator. And before I send out boards to any of my students, I use the controls and I turn on the timer, voting, locking, and hiding. So now as the teacher, I'm the only one who can start the timer, which you'll notice is right here on your toolbar. I'm the only one who can start a voting session, who can lock things, and who can hide things. And then the last facilitator control I really like is take the lead. What this does is it'll pull everybody to my view on the board. So if you've kind of spread them out, you didn't use breakout boards, you just wanted them in different sections of your board, then you could use take the lead to pull them all back to your view on the board. Or you just clicked on Jimmy's icon up here and realized that he's not where he needs to be. So you click take the lead and everybody is again pushed to your view on the board. So that's just kind of focusing on breakout boards. Obviously, you can see there's a lot going on. So I'm just going to kind of highlight, and if you have Lucid Spark up, feel free to play. Just going down the toolkit we have, and I'm going to come back to the rocket ship. Rocket ship just launched today. These are visual activities. I will give you a preview in just a second, but I will come back to it. So you have templates, you have text boxes that you can drag out. You have your sticky notes. I use the sticky notes. That's like the most used feature that I use because it's just quick and easy for students to get their ideas on the board, especially if I'm putting out a response prompt, like tell me about your summer vacation, or let's think about different perspectives, different things like that. Underneath sticky notes, you have your different shapes. Again, you can pull them out onto the board. You can change their color. And if you double click, you can write inside of any of your shapes as well. You can link them to outside links. So any of those typical things that you would be used to. When you're connecting things in Lucid Spark, you'll just use this little, I'm going to pull them out, not in something already created. So let's say I pull out this shape, this sticky note, this text box, and I just want to connect them. I click on this line, and then you can connect any of these, and you can use, again, these line preferences. You can change how your line looks, the color of it, the endpoints. So you have a ton of different things. Just to think, little arrow to make connections. So great for quick concept mapping, timelines, different things like that. Paths and frames. I don't want to overwhelm you, but basically, if you saw in my presentation, we were moving through a presentation that it looked like. In order to create that, you just hit create frame and you drag it around a space on your board. And then you can come, once you have multiple frames on your board, then you can go down to a path. It automatically makes a table of contents. And then you can make a path, which will, when you create it, you click and drag it into a specific order. And then that gives you that navigation pane at the bottom. Images. Everybody loves images. I don't know what it is about images, but they just make me more engaged. So I am always using, for example, let's search a cute little kitty cat, and it'll search different Bing's image safe search for cats, drag them onto the screen, and then you can resize it. So great for, that's how they were making the different food webs and different things like that. Annotation. Exactly what it sounds like. It gives you an annotation tool. So you can be like, this cat is cool. I had a teacher talking about using it through the writing process, where they'll kind of start by analyzing, they'll create a brainstorm, then they'll use the annotation tool to circle things, really gain consensus. They'll pull out a PDF, they'll use the highlighter and the shapes to annotate that PDF. So a couple different options for your for your pen tool. All right, so I'm going to stop there so I don't overwhelm you, but those are the basic toolbar. And then again, the 3 dots gives you additional things that you can pin on the left-hand side. Okay, so we only have 5 more minutes. Do you want to see visual activities, or do you feel like your brains are too full and you just want me to send you a video?
I'd like to see them.
Okay, so if your brain's too full, just close your eyes, go na 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 boo boo, she's not talking. Okay, so this just launched, so it should hopefully get, when something first comes out, it gets better and better as we go. But what visual activities are, in my mind, it's a great way to merge a true collaboration space with an independent workspace for the teacher to gather formative assessment data on their students' learning. Because I find a lot of value in students dragging sticky notes onto a board where they can see what everybody else is doing. So they're learning from each other and they're truly collaborating. While I also want during my lesson to see specifically what my students are doing and where their understanding is at. So you can see here, there are a ton of different templates that you can pull out. And I will send, I'll attach I have a template library that I started creating that are education specific. But for example, we always do pulse checks. So you could pull out a pulse check from your visual activity. Everything is customizable on here. So you could even erase it and start from scratch if you wanted to. But we'll just say like after the lesson, how confident are you about blah, blah, blah. And this one, I'm just going to leave. The rest of it looks great. So then you can preview it to see what it'll look for students, or you can go back to editing, save your changes. And then there's 2 ways that you can send it out. You can just grab a link and post that to an LMS. Just make sure your share settings are set to be open for students to be able to access it. So make sure you have the share link turned on. So you can share them directly to this one, or you could have like multiple activities in one board, and you could have like multiple of these strewn throughout your presentation as well. And then you would just share the link to the board and they'd go into each of them separately throughout the presentation. But then the students go in. And actually, why don't we'll all play. Are you ready? Sorry, this one hasn't been usually I like getting in and collaborating. I should have set up a small group activity for us to do. So I copied the link. Let me just make sure that it's set up. I'll do guest just in case. Okay. And here's a link directly just to this one activity. What you'll do is you click on the link, you'll click on start, and then you can give me, hopefully yours won't do that too. Let me know if yours is also. This is when you do a demo and everything breaks for you. Start. Okay, let's try this again. I messed something up. Okay, or it's just that my computer is super slow. Is it working for you guys or is it empty?
I've just clicked start.
Okay.
It is empty.
Mine's
It is
empty.
empty.
It is empty.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I will send a play one out later after, since my mouse is also, my board is kind of freezing on me. That always happens during demos, but you go in and then after you submit it, I can go in and I can review the results and it'll show me a scatter plot of all of the different things. Let me edit the activity and try saving it again. Save changes, start. Okay, it's not going to work. I'm not going to waste time. So since we only have 2 more minutes, here are my favorite activities, because today was mostly about small group work and creativity in the classroom. So 3 things. I'm just going to send you, I'll send you direct links because it's easier. This link takes you to your template toolkits by content area. So this is another place to find social studies, ELA, math, any template that you can think of. We hopefully have it. And if we don't, email me and I will add it. The next one is our YouTube page. You saw a couple of our YouTube videos related to small group work. So we have a ton of YouTube videos that are all me, so don't judge too harshly. I definitely did not go to school for that. I just somehow am making videos on YouTube now to help people. And then our asynchronous training menu, since today was hopefully giving you a lot of ideas, this will walk you through quick 10 to 15 minute self-paced learning paths that'll give you more tips and tricks about, how to get started with different templates in each of these different content areas. And I do believe we have one right here for structuring collaboration for small group, whole group. So we have 2 of those self-paced if you kind of want to review what we talked about today. So let me grab a link to this as well. And then this inside of, I'm going to go back and I'm just going to grab, I just put out a new YouTube channel, playlist all about visual activities. So when you get in here, it starts with a quick walkthrough that will work and won't break when you try and send it out. And then the other ones are just ideas. So a bunch of different ways, pulse checks, word sorting, branches of government, etc. The biggest thing to know about the visual activities is it all at this point is drag and drop type of stuff. So pulse checks, polls, sorting, different things like that. Okay, so we are at 12:45. Do I have any questions? Okay, perfect. I'll take silence as I explained everything so well that there just can't be any questions. But feel free, I'll add my email in here too. If you ever have any questions, just reach out. I usually have a video for you already, so it's easy for me to just kind of shoot that back to you. Don't spend 3 hours trying to find one tool. Feel free to reach out anytime. Okay, so I'll stick around if you have any questions. Karen has something though. Go ahead.
Yep, I was just going to say, Vanessa, thank you once again for the session. We have another session coming up on the 1st of June, I think it is, at 7:30 in the morning. And that will be where Vanessa will explain more about how to use visual activities for formative assessment. So feel free to join us for that. Some information will be coming out via your, e-learning working group members shortly about that. But Vanessa, I've written down heaps of notes from today. After all of these sessions that I've done, I've finally learned how to do a journey or a path. I've been trying to work that one out for ages. So I really appreciate your time, particularly as it's so late. And I'd also like to thank those that were able to attend with us today. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
And one more thing, I'm just realizing I didn't send you the templates for the visual activities. So I'm just going to put that in the chat in case you wanted it. This is not the one I wanted. Well, this one will do. It has some examples. And if you throw your email in there, I will email you the full template with has a bunch of different templates in it. That, of course, is activities toolkit.
And Vanessa, when I share the recording with the people that participated today,
Okay.
I'll put those links in there as well so that
Perfect.
they have them and they know what they're for.
Oh, here it is. Okay, without further ado, so I can let you leave. Share. So this has a bunch of templates that are education specific related to visual activities, which I guess is really stealing my thunder for the next presentation. So don't even look at them. They're nothing. But here you go. This will have some templates, start giving you an idea of different ways that you can use visual activities inside of Lucid Spark. And it is also, they are also inside of Lucid Chart as well. Okay, I'm going to stop talking and I will let you all go. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, Vanessa. And if you have a moment to take to complete the evaluation form that I'll put into the chat, that would be wonderful as well. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vanessa.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See you, Vanessa. Thank you.